It's just really a swap out from the D we've ran all year. So Ekblad comes out, Jones goes in. We've got Kulikov and Mikkola back together. That's been their pair all year, and Uvis Blunsky, excuse me, plays with Smitty. So we kind of look exactly like we did 10 days ago on our blue line. So there's no adjustment for us there.
What's Brad Marchand's status? How far away is he? You know?
I don't think anything's necessarily changed in the original diagnosis. He was week to week. We're hopeful to get him back toward the end of the regular season. That was the hope. I think that was kind of the idea. Wanted to get on the ice and move some pucks around just to see where he was at. So that was a positive. They stayed through it. I mean, that's an 11-minute morning skate, so it wouldn't be too heavy. I don't think that necessarily puts him ahead of his injury rehab, but it puts him back on the ice, which is the positive part for legs and conditioning and all those other things. So he's going to be able to do some things on the ice, fortunately. But I don't know that changes kind of how long this is going to take to heal.
Good to have him around teammates and things at this point.
Yeah.
Trying to get acclimated.
Really want those guys in and around as much as possible. He's actually got some teammates on our group, right? Basically, the entire fourth line from 2 years ago is there, and then, he played with Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart. So he comes in. There's 5 guys that he has a relationship with already, and then he's not 22, right? He's been in the league, so everybody's run into him one time or another. It's easier for the older guys to walk into a room. They've just got an awful lot of experience with it.
What's his most significant contribution in your vision for him to make for the Panthers? How can he help your team the most?
I think across the spectrum of the game, we feel that stylistically he fits our team. So we didn't bring necessarily a perimeter outside playmaking player. We brought an inside player here. Probably the piece that we think is equal to what he can do on the power play, what he can do 5-on-5, is his penalty killing. So we felt two potential needs going into the deadline. It was the top 4 right-handed defenseman, and we wanted to augment our penalty killing, which was really our strength last year. It was a really important piece to us. So, we had saw him and Bergeron kill a lot of penalties, and it didn't go well for us at times. So we think there's an added piece that's important to us that he'll bring to the table.
Coach, as an opposing coach, if you can think back over the years, what was one of the things you noticed about him that matured as the years went on?
Make the right play. So he's a very, very skilled hockey player. And he brought that intensity and that physicality probably from game 1, right? That was a constant in his game. But these skilled guys, they either stay with the game that they brought to the league, they're skilled, they're making plays, and their risk profile doesn't change. Because especially if they're very, very skilled, they're making that play. They're going to turn over a bunch, but they're still trying to make that play. But there was a shift for the high-end guys, the great team players learn to change their risk profile. And I think it comes with confidence, like the really elite guys with true confidence, sometimes it's the plays they don't make. They're going to make those. They even did it in practice. There's some pucks that you don't want to try, plays you don't want to try to make. I think he's got a good handle on that. He's going to make the right play. He'll put the puck deep if he has to. He'll battle it out on the wall, not try to force something inside. And then they have a hand set and a skill set that once or twice a game they do something special.
Often when you pick up a player at this stage of the game, it's because of the role he can play from here until the end of the season and
right.
The season to meet an immediate need. Yet in this case, Brad has the injury situation that he's got to deal with, and his date of return is questionable. So we are making this trade with the idea that you want him for the long term beyond this season.
We'd like all the players that we've brought in to consider us in the future. Like anybody who's hard up against a cap, right? There's some decisions that have to be made, and if you have any success in the playoffs, your players get more coveted by other teams, and sometimes we just can't. But the players that we brought in, we're very, very aware of our room, the closeness of the core guys that have been here, and we want people that we think that can fit into that and become part of it. So on the trade, when we bring somebody in, the idea is you can play here for as long as we can fit you.
Just to go back to Ekblad a little bit, what is the void that he leaves and why specifically, to go back to your answer there, do you think that this defense is able to?
Well, just we use him. He has been on the top of our number one power play unit, so Seth will step into that. He kills more. He takes more penalty kill time than Seth has, but that's a place that we wanted Seth to step into. We wanted him to kill more penalties in the last 20 games to get used to what we do. Seth is, I mean, they're very similar in size and range. They can get across the ice. They can take ice. It fits how we defend. We're not a give ice team. So the silver lining is, and we felt with Seth, he's not a rookie player. He's going to learn our game, and now he's just going to add. We thought we could take him from 25 minutes down to 18 or 19, and now we're just going to push him right back up there to what he's used to, but ask him to play a game that is ours. So he'll get more reps. He's going to get penalty kill time. He's just going to step into all the things that Aaron did. We were lucky we had two of them for a few games, and it was pretty good for us.
Coach, a lot of times organizations will bring in a player, Brad's better experience, kind of push them over the top, know how to win, et cetera. How does that dynamic, shift given the fact you won a championship last year, and what is the dynamic of Brad kind of coming to you to play for him since it has won a while? Like how does he help your group from that dynamic?
If you look at that, it's a good question, because there are sometimes you feel that you have a need or a void, and you're asking, you'll see, especially younger teams bring in this guy to help lead in that direction. What I'm hopeful for here, and I'm going to put Seth Jones in the same category, even though they're coming from different organizations, and the organizations were in different places, that you don't have to, that you can come in and just play and have fun, because, and you will lead in doing that, but you don't have to teach as much in the leadership department. Be yourself, come in and play and have fun. It's not all on you. As a matter of fact, we spread it around over everybody. So you don't carry necessarily that burden of leadership. Insofar, sometimes leadership is a burden, but you can lead by your personality, your true personality. The pressure comes off you a little bit when you walk into a room that's got some guys that have been there and some vocal guys. We got a really fun room. We have a lot of different personalities. It's not all the same guy. Like, I don't know, I got to point them out, but we got some strange dudes in there. I guess the coach is one of them, but that's what makes it fun. So bring your own personality, be exactly who you are. Don't ever try to be somebody that you're not, because that's not what we traded for. We want, if you're funny, be funny. If you're not, just sit there and laugh. Whatever it is that who you are, be yourself. And I think when you come into maybe a more veteran team, you have a better chance of doing that.
Coach, first goaltender tonight.
Sergey plays tonight.
And then we talked so much in the past about how this matchup and series has been some of the nastiest, most exciting
Yeah.
you've seen in a while. With both teams kind of missing some of those emotional drivers now in this matchup, do you expect the same tonight?
Oh, I do. I mean, they're in a really interesting situation. Watch their game against Tampa. I don't know how many years has it been since the Boston Bruins had the pressure come off them. In terms of what the expectation, I mean, we're talking about decades where at the start of every year they considered themselves a legitimate threat, and they were. So you just go back, I mean, they won, 10, 15 years ago, and then at 132 points 2 years ago. It's been a dominant team for a long time. So there's a bit of a reset here. But now you get a bunch of guys, and I never like to say, well, these guys are playing for jobs, but there's opportunities now that haven't been here for a while. I think you're going to find them to be a very structured, very hard team. The players that will come in will have adhered to structure. That's how they get into the NHL. So I think they're going to be as difficult to beat tonight as they've been. And I'm telling you that's the truth. That's the way I look at the way they played their last game. Their structure was real good. Their risk profile had changed, and it makes sense that they would just naturally change. So it'll be a good one tonight. I do think it's going to be physical. I do think it's going to be very fast and more maybe of a straight line game than as many regroups in the neutral zone, pucks being brought back, inside plays that they were very dynamic with their four-man rush in the past. In order to pull that off, you've got to be able to make a certain number of fairly risky plays at the offensive line, but they were good at it. So it was part of their game, and you understand it was not a casualness. They got four in that rush, and they made plays. I think you'll see more net traffic, more straight line hockey tonight, which will make for a more physical game.
Paul, a two-part question on Marchand, and you've answered some of this to a certain.
So just, you know, I met this guy about 3 days ago, so I don't have, I mean, I've seen him a lot, but I don't have that great an insight. Yeah.
But on the first part here, just on usage, here he was 5-on-5, usually first unit power play, first unit PK. I would imagine, given the strength of your team, that doesn't have to be the case for him.
It doesn't have to be, it could be. The challenge, so what we'll want to do is get our game as dialed as we possibly can right now, so that when you're making a change, you can make one. We're not going to jam them into a situation that's going well. So if the number one unit's running, the number one unit's going to stay the way it is. And I guess like most teams, if you're in the offensive zone, your number one unit stays over a minute, but we'll change on a minute 10 if there's a whistle or something. So there's going to be a pretty good second unit go out. He will kill penalties. Where he sits in the lineup will be, I've got like kind of three pairs I'm pretty married to in the top three lines. And then we move those other players around. Historically, we move them around. And that will be kind of how this thing happens. He'll come in somewhere, and then the normal course of events will take place, and I'll just move those three guys around, and then we'll decide whether we like it.
And on the personality side, maybe you don't know him well enough after 3 days. He is a particular personality,
Yeah.
a professional personality. So was there anything about what you knew of him that you said, yeah, we could use?
Yes. So there was that. Everybody does all the research in the world and gets it, but when there's a consistency that comes back, and then the two guys that played with him at Team Canada who hadn't played with him before come back and just said all energy, all positive, and all the time. So we lost some guys, and some of the names you wouldn't know, but we lost some chirpers and talkers in our room. Brandon Montour never shuts up. Lomberg, you would know just by following the league. But Josh Mahura was a big part of that. Nick Cousins was a big part of that. So we were getting a little quieter here, which was fine. We've operated well, but it's fun bringing a guy in that's involved in everything all the time, right? Brings the energy level up.
We're gonna go to Katie Ingleson, and then our last question, and then Heiko, and then our last question. Thank you. What pleases you most, how everyone has bought into this defense-first mentality, especially at this point of the season?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a new idea. We just, because of, we had a really tough December and January, and middling results. Even November, coming back from Finland, we lost 6 to 7 in that stretch, and we did. Our team was different, so we had to make some changes in how we played, and through the month of January, I've really liked our game since the Montreal loss at home. But we went win-loss almost the entire month. So it didn't take traction in terms of the win-loss. So what I like the most is in that month when we were winning and losing, our game was pretty good. And we didn't break away from what we were trying to do.
Coach, another addition is Nico Sturm. What have you seen from him so far, and what kind of role do you envision for him?
The fun guys, when you bring a player in or you get to training camp, sometimes it takes you a long time to understand the player, what he's good at. Like you're trying to figure out what's the connection between player and coach. And I think that connection is you have to agree on what the player's great at. Because if you don't, you'll never, as the coach, put him into the position that he thinks he should be in. But after we got off the bench after the first period last game and say, okay, we agree on what he's great at. He is very focused, very serious, very committed, very fit man. We needed a face-off man on the penalty kill and somebody who had experience on the penalty kill. And then we needed a guy that we thought we could, I don't want to say speed up, but he could fit into our style of game and it would make him faster. In order to do that, you got to be a guy who can read the game. If you can read the game here, You have a pretty good idea what's happening next, and then you can move. And we felt the way we played would fit the way he plays. So I would say my thoughts on him is I understand his game after one, and that doesn't happen very often. I think I have a really good idea of what he's great at, and he showed it to us.
Coach, how impressive, since you've been here in Florida, how impressive you've been with Bill Zito, bringing trust around him, and how they identify needs for your trades or free agency?
I think there are two great stories in Florida. One is the players, and the second one is how they got there. And it changes the way you look at people as the coach. Bill's in the coach's room every day because we want him, because he's fun and he's smart, and he brings a lot of energy, and that rubs off on you. But I made a comment about it, kind of agreeing on what a player is great at. He always is constantly looking at a player and saying, "What's he good at? Like, what can we get out of him? How could he fit with us?" It's not. I mean, he's not Pollyanna. He's aware of the shortcomings of some players, but you hear that line, how do you get better? How do you get better? My favorite story about Bill is I've been working for him for about 2 weeks, and I'm interviewing Sylvain Lefebvre as an assistant. And Bill calls, and he says, I think I can get Matthew Tkachuk, but it's going to be like really expensive. And I got off the phone and think, you are not getting Matthew Tkachuk. That is never, ever going to happen. And then the phone rang like 2 hours later. Okay. All right, things are different here.